So I'm here with Veronique and Caitlin from the Micheal J Fox Foundation. Could you guys introduce yourselves, please?
I have had the beautiful life journey of being with the foundation since it began and watching Parkinson's research make such incredible strides over the last couple of decades. Micheal J Fox Foundation is really focused on collaboration and acceleration, removing human error so that scientists can do their jobs and we can get to the treatments that patients need faster. And it's happening. There's such tremendous momentum. So I work on the patient side. I work within the patient community and able to kind of hear the priorities of people living with Parkinson's disease. I work closely with the patient council.
Yeah, and I'm Caitlin. I've been here for just 2 years, so sort of when some of that acceleration has really been happening. And I sit where the patients and the researchers come together. So in a department or a team called patient engagement. And our role is really to figure out how to get people into studies, make sure that they're doing all right in the studies, and then help them once the studies are over to figure out what the next steps are.
Fantastic, thank you. So could we wind the clock back a bit and talk about how MJFF was sort of founded and how it's developed over the decades that it's been around?
I think the instinct most people have, you perhaps too, when Parkinson's touches your life, once that initial moment of figuring out like what's next, the instinct is to do something to help, to give back. And Micheal and co-founder Debbie Brooks, they wanted to get better treatments for people faster, and they began a journey of collaboration with researchers, business people. I'll say that again. And they began this kind of Venn diagram of talking to researchers, patients who are living with the disease, and people, business strategists, to help move research forward quickly. We have recently had a breakthrough that we'll talk about a little bit, that we're very excited about. We can now measure Parkinson's disease. It's going to transform the way that clinical trials are done, making them faster, making them smarter, making them cheaper, and also moving us into an era where it's more of a biological model instead of a symptomatic model, which is exciting for patients, for families. It also opens the door potentially for prevention, for understanding Parkinson's risk, who gets Parkinson's and why. That is,
The alpha-synuclein.
yeah,
Yes.
Yeah. So you've done a video on that.
yes.
And happy to hear from your perspective as well.
Yeah, well, essentially, the alpha-synuclein seed amplification assay can measure Parkinson's potentially even decades before someone is diagnosed with PD, which changes the landscape of clinical trials. We will understand more about the biology of the individual entering clinical trials, so we'll have the right people in the right trials for the right treatments. So we're going to have new treatments that are specific to the individual living with the disease, which is wonderful. In addition to this breakthrough, there is tremendous momentum in the therapeutic development pipeline. In the last 18 years, the field has had 8 years, in the last 8 years, 18 new therapies, treatments, symptomatic treatments for people living with PD have come to market. The Fox Foundation has been involved with a number of those. There are 146, I believe, unique therapies being tested in clinical trials. So there's a lot of momentum. To me, having a biomarker, having a way to measure what is happening in Parkinson's needs to be a precursor to having the treatments that we want. It definitely is going to accelerate things. And that happens now immediately. So we're encouraged about that. And we're encouraged about everything that's happening within the whole field of Parkinson's research and what it will mean for people and what it will mean for science.
So what would you say the ethos of the organization?
A lot of the ethos comes from Micheal himself and his pure motives to help people live better lives with Parkinson's disease. Essentially, he wants to meet every unmet need of every individual living with Parkinson's disease. We are very collaborative. We know that it takes everyone. We want to remove human error and business strategy to accompany science so that we can move the research along faster. Yeah.
And I think what you're talking about, the openness, we do have an open access policy for anything that we fund and anything that we sponsor. So everything coming out of all of the research that we are investing in needs to be publicly available once it's published, which is very important to us. All of the data for our two largest studies is also publicly available for researchers who are qualified. So that's PPMI, GP2. And I think that in addition to that, what Vi was saying about collaboration. So we are working with patients, we are working with care partners, and I think what's also important is that we're working with industry because we understand that we won't be able to get there without them. And the only other thing that I think is sort of really key here is that we're not trying to, I don't know what quite the right phrasing is, not trying to compare ourselves to any other organization, because I think what everyone is doing is we all have the same goal in mind.
Yeah.
So we might be funding things, other people might be really helping us get people into trials while also funding things, but we're all really playing on exactly the same team.
And speaking of that team, if people want to get involved with Micheal J Fox,
Yeah.
either funding or some other way, what are some of the ways they can do?
There's so many ways to be involved. Some people feel inspired to be involved directly in research and clinical trials. There are ways to do that. Fox Trial Finder can direct people to clinical trials in their area.
It's on your website, isn't it?
Yes.
Yes. There's also Fox Insight, which is a way to share one's lived experience with Parkinson's disease through surveys. And that big data is used to help determine scientific priorities and patient priorities, which is so important.
So I do Fox Insight. It's very easy to use. Tell how useful it's going to be.
It's a wonderful way to use lived experience and individual stories to create big data that helps science. So people can use their stories to help scientists directly. We also, during COVID, this is a little bit different, but we were very concerned that people would be isolated. And so we created the Parkinson's Buddy Network. And it is a way for patients and families to connect with other people like them with like priorities and to ask their questions online.
Is that open outside the US?
It is.
Good.
Yes. Yep. There's also many people put together kind of peer-to-peer grassroots fundraising activities in their area. There's a program called Team Fox, whether it's a lemonade stand or a book bonanza or a 1,000-person cycling event. That is a way to build strength, to build a support group, to raise needed funding for Parkinson's disease. Something that's more focused within the United States is public policy advocacy. There is a program called the National Plan to End Parkinson's, which would be the first ever legislation to try to put a stop to Parkinson's disease. It would involve public groups and private groups in coalition to look at every aspect of living with PD and create legislation across it to smooth the way. And that's something that individuals in the US can build relationships with their elected officials and share their priorities there. It's also good to just be involved in your communities. One of the things about this event right here is seeing all of the friendships that have been made and seeing everyone connect with each other. People have global friendships and they meet up right here, which is, one of,
That's something fun.
yeah. I mean, it's a real testament to the human spirit, the kind of meaning and the kind of connection that can come out of doing something, advocating, being engaged and involved in whatever way is right for that individual. There's really something for everybody.
Great. Well, thank you very much. That's
Yeah.
interesting.
You can help us keep making this content by simply subscribing to the channel, and remember, there's a new video every week.